All right. Hello, everybody. We're gonna switch over onto the next topic, and which actually happened at 1 o'clock today. I don't know what day this is coming out, but this week's race in Saudi, I believe. Um,
Saudi Arabia. Yep.
yep, that's gonna be this topic. So why don't Jamie lead us out with
Yep.
this one
I
right
took the
here? We
lead on
both
this
watched the
one.
race, but
I did,
I was unfortunately
but
grinding my foot champs weekend during it, so I saw the highlights for the most part, but nothing specific.
yeah, it was pretty boring. I think that's the best word to sum up the race. Unfortunately, um, it had the potential to be somewhat exciting, but I think the FIA really screwed it up, and it was just an all-around boring race because of the way all the drivers end up separating. Um, this year's grid, you can tell it's Verstappen, Perez, everyone else. Like they've got the gap they have is even from third place to 20th. Like Red Bull are going to win everything. They're going to be super dominant. It's going to be worse than the Mercedes years. It's That's what this first few races are telling us. Now I don't know if these Red Bulls are just perfectly made to drive at Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, but the car looks absolutely unstoppable. Perez started in first, didn't have a great start, but Alonso starting in second lined up his car incorrectly by quite a large margin. I'm not sure how he didn't notice. I really don't. Um, but he didn't, and because of that, he had to serve a 5 second time penalty, which caused a lot of excitement later. But in the first lap, I know Oscar Piastri sustained a bit of damage, and same with Norris in the first lap. So McLaren's instantly down to the bottom, and then from there, it was kind of just a DRS train. Um, the entire time with Verstappen slowly moving his way up it and Leclerc at one point. But um, Stroll was an early pit stop, and shortly after coming back in or back out from the pits, he retired. It looked like I wasn't even quite sure what it was. His car looked like it was slightly smoking. Something must have broke. I wonder if it was his brakes because his brakes were smoking a lot before the race. But he retired in a weird spot, and apparently a safety car was called because there wasn't a lot of cameras in the area, so they called a safety car in an abundance of caution. Because of that, it helped out Verstappen because he didn't pit yet, and it helped out. It would have helped out Lewis Hamilton if he went straight in, but he didn't. So basically, it just let Verstappen stay P4, and from that point, he just quickly overtook Russell and Alonso, and from there, it was a procession. Unfortunately, a couple drivers switching around places. You had Magnussen getting Sonoda close to the end, and then all the exciting stuff at the ending was the drivers in 15th, 16th, and 17th racing each
That
other
was what I did see a lot of the coverage of near the end.
because those were the only cars within like 4 seconds of each other. Everyone at the end was just 5 seconds out from each other because it needed a safety car. It needs something to bunch the grid up because the cars very much segmented into where they were. It was Red Bull, Alonso, Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine, Haas, basically mixed in with AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo, McLaren and Williams, and then Bottas because he's super low on the pace. But the teams just basically segmented each other's out based on pace, and it was just a procession from there because no one could catch each other because they're all in the right spot. Pretty boring and not a good outlook for the year because F1 has gained a lot of popularity in the last few years. And if it's going to look like that in a lot of the races, that's not good for the sport.
Hey, knock on wood, real quick.
Yeah, I got
I
you.
mean, just to say that could have just been two races where
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that happens. Some more
This
excitement
is an
could
ext-
come.
this is an extremely reactionary sport, anyways.
Yeah,
So
Also near the end of the race, I did hear Verstappen and Perez saying they hear something at high speeds, so they could
I
have
think
been
it was
so.
just Verstappen.
Was sorry?
It was just Verstappen's car.
Perez also said he heard something too, or he felt
Oh, really?
something wrong with his car. I don't know what it
Mm-hmm.
was, but something could have went wrong that we just don't know of, taken care of behind the scenes. But
Mm-hmm.
for future races, if it's a race like Saudi and they maybe could have gotten lucky, like I don't know, something
They
could have went
definitely weren't
wrong.
pushing their car all the way.
Sorry.
They definitely weren't pushing the car all the way either.
Yeah,
Um,
and
Two
if
bits of drama
something
did
was
happen
going
though.
on, yeah.
Mhm. Not sure if you caught this one. Perez was going to end the day with going into the last lap. with the fastest lap. So he was going to end the day top of the championship standings. The
I
first
did
time
hear
a
the
Mexican
commentator say
driver,
something. Yeah.
first time until 1960, Verstappen took it on the last lap. And Red Bull didn't tell Perez. They didn't tell Perez. And he had his interview at the end of the race. And the guy, David Coulthard, who does the interviews, said, "You were going to be leading the championship." And still, Max took it on the last lap. And Max Verstappen and Perez, for a split second, you could see his face. He was angry. So that's going to brew throughout the season. Perez and Verstappen might fall out big time. And
That hey, that could be
we need
Red
it. The
Bull's
season needs it.
problem, the
And
internal
then
struggle. I mean, that could be the reason some of them get fifth or sixth throughout this whole season or something like that.
needs to happen. Needs to be an Alonso win. So Alonso incorrectly started the race, right? Incorrect position. He serves a 5 second penalty. Fine. Forget about it. Like 4 laps to go, Mercedes start protesting, saying Aston Martin touched the car too soon. So once the race is over and the podium celebrations are over, that's when FIA says, "Hey, Alonso, you have a 10-second time penalty. George Russell's now P3." Not too long ago, I think only about 2-3 hours ago, FAA had come back out and said, "Wait, we're wrong. After review, Alonso stays P3 and George Russell's P4." So FAA did not have a good weekend. They
Let's
messed
just
up
say Drive to
the.
Survive next season is going to be a huge first couple of episodes.
Like, hopefully, I mean, they can make a lot out of that, but I mean, it's just an absolute mess to give a penalty and then take it back all after the race.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't. It's not a good look. It makes it feel immature, the whole thing. All right, let me see if I can pull up the standings real quick for F1, just so we can quickly go over that. If you had to guess who's the worst driver, who would it be?
The worst?
Yeah,
From what I
right
under
now.
from what I
Last place in the
understand, there
standings.
was a racer today that only raced twice for F2 and then came to for this race. I don't know his name.
Who's last in the driver's standings is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get that guy's name. Is it
It's not
Hulkenberg?
this guy.
I'm just gonna guess it's
No,
Hulkenberg.
no. Hulkenberg's been
Botas?
at F1 a long time. Bottas has been at F1 a long time. Neither of those two.
No, that's just both of my guess for bottom because I forgot that
It's the
guy's name.
same team. The same team in 1920th. Williams have scored a point. Haas have scored a point.
See, this is the problem with not keeping up with F1 for a while because the names start to run low. I'm gonna guess it's
What's your favorite driver?
no. Don't tell me McLaren.
Lando Norris is in last. Oscar Piastri is in 19th.
He's the only driver that I've ever watched consistently for spell, and then
Mm-hmm.
I stopped watching, obviously. But why?
Yeah,
Why?
no. McLaren made a really bad car.
He's gonna
Verstappen's in
switch
first,
teams probably. He's gonna switch teams.
probably. I could see him taking Perez's seat.
Yeah.
Um, Verstappen first with 44 points. Perez is second with 43. Alonso's third with
Beef.
30, and then fourth, tied for fourth, is Sainz and Hamilton at 20, with Russell at 18. Lance Stroll's seventh in front of McLaren eighth, and then Bottas and Ocon round out the top 10.
Wow.
Pretty boring. Still super early, but those Aston Martins definitely have pace. And if we go to driver's standing, Red Bull, Aston Martin, Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine. So with McLaren last, like I said. So
Yeah. Doesn't seem too exciting, but only 2 races. There could be a lot more
yeah,
drama.
we have to hope for more. Gives us more to talk about. So
Yeah, it's true. We need stuff
yeah,
to talk about. Like that's the reason more stuff needs to happen. I don't care. We need to talk about more stuff.
yeah. That's the whole reason why pro
That's
sports
the whole.
exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you can't talk about it, then it's gonna die. And if we
Yeah.
can't talk about it, then
Then
might as well cancel the whole
how are we
sport.
gonna get a bajillion subscribers?
Exactly, exactly. All right. Well, I think that's all I had on F1. You got any
Yeah. No,
here?
that's really about it for me. You were the star of this show.
Yeah, I don't think I killed it, but neither neither did F1 this
But
weekend, so
exactly, I was gonna say
it
this.
happened.
This isn't your fault this time.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, I think that's it. Thank you for joining us for our F1 segment. We'll be back probably tomorrow with another segment on something yet to be decided.
Yep.
Uh,
All right.
Deuces.
See you.